The massive human battleship Terminus hung in the darkness of space like a steel predator. Its hull, scarred from countless battles, stretched nearly 2 miles from bow to stern. The ship's name, painted in bold white letters, stood out against the dark metal plating that had protected humanity's finest vessel for the past 5 years. Captain James Walker stood at the bridge's main viewport, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. 20 years of war had left their mark on his face, but his eyes remained sharp as he watched the distant stars. The final battle was approaching, and every member of his 1,000-person crew knew it. "Captain," called out First Officer Robert Thompson from his station, "long-range scanners are picking up the Citadel's energy signature. We'll be in visual range in 30 minutes. Walker nodded slowly, memories of the war's beginning flooding back to him. He remembered the day the Council's ships first appeared in Earth's orbit, their message clear and simple: submit or die. The aliens had expected humanity to bow down, to accept their place as a lesser species in the galactic community. "Status report," Walker commanded, his voice steady and calm. "All systems operating at peak efficiency, sir," responded Lieutenant Mary Cooper from the weapons station. "Shield-piercing cannons are charged and ready. Hull integrity at 100%. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role in the coming battle. Through the viewport, Walker could see the faint purple glow of the Council's defense network in the distance, the same defense network that had failed to stop humanity's advance across 20 star systems. "Atlas," Walker addressed the ship's eye. "Display the battle footage from first contact day." A holographic screen materialized in front of the bridge crew. The footage showed the Council's first attack on Earth's colonies. Their ships, sleek and elegant, had descended upon the human settlements with overwhelming force. But they hadn't expected what happened next. The video showed human ships, smaller but more aggressive, executing maneuvers that the Council had deemed impossible. Humanity's experimental shield-piercing technology, developed in secret, had turned the tide of that first battle. The aliens' supposedly impenetrable defenses had fallen in hours. "Sir," Thompson spoke up again, "incoming transmission from Earth Command." Walker turned from the viewport. "Put it through." Admiral William Stone's holographic figure appeared on the bridge. "Captain Walker, this is it. 20 years of blood and sacrifice have led to this moment. The Council's leadership is holed up in that Citadel, thinking their walls will protect them. Show them how wrong they are." "Understood, Admiral," Walker replied. "We won't fail." As the transmission ended, Walker addressed his crew. 20 years ago, they came to our home. They threatened our children. They'd bombed our colonies. They called us primitive, said we weren't ready for the stars." He paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "Today, we proved them wrong for the last time." Lieutenant Cooper's console lit up with urgent signals. "Sir, Council ships approaching. They're moving to defensive positions around the Citadel." Walker smiled slightly. The Council's ships, for all their advanced technology, still used predictable tactical patterns. Their rigid hierarchy and belief in their own superiority had prevented them from adapting, from learning from their defeats. "Battle stations," Walker commanded. Red alert klaxons sounded throughout the massive ship as crew members rushed to their positions. The Terminus's engines hummed with power as weapon systems came online. "Atlas, initiate combat protocols," Walker ordered. "Show me their fleet positions." The AI displayed a tactical hologram showing dozens of Council ships forming a defensive sphere around their precious Citadel. Their formation was perfect, textbook really. And that would be their downfall. "Helm, set course for Sector 7, Walker commanded. "Let's remind the Council why they should have left Earth alone." The Terminus moved forward with purpose, its massive form accelerating toward humanity's final battle. In the distance, the Council's Citadel waited, its defenders unaware that their last day of dominance had finally arrived. Inside the towering Citadel, the Council's 5 supreme leaders gathered in their grand meeting chamber. Crystal walls surrounded them, offering a perfect view of their defense fleet. The chamber itself spoke of their power, decorated with precious metals and ancient artifacts from 1,000 conquered worlds. High Leader Dax, the oldest among them, stood at the chamber center, his gray skin wrinkled with worry as he watched the approaching human battleship through the crystal walls. "How dare they send a single ship against us?" he growled, his voice echoing in the vast room. "Perhaps they have finally accepted their defeat," said Council Member Roth, adjusting his ceremonial robes. "One ship is nothing against our defense fleet." The other council members nodded in agreement, but their confidence was shaken by recent memories. 20 years of war had taught them that humans were anything but predictable. "May I remind you," spoke Military Advisor Kell, entering the chamber with quick steps, "that this is the same ship that destroyed our forces in the Battle of Proxima, the same ship that broke through the Ring of Steel at Centauri." Silence fell over the chamber. The council members remembered those defeats well. Hundreds of their best ships reduced to space debris by this single human vessel. "Impossible." High Leader Dax slammed his fist on the crystalline table. "Our technology is superior. Our species has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. These humans, these primitives, they were throwing rocks at each other just a few centuries ago." A younger council member, Tira, stepped forward. "Perhaps that is why we keep losing. We think too much about our past glory and too little about the present threat." The chamber's alert system suddenly flashed red. A holographic display showed the terminus moving closer, its massive form casting a shadow over their outer defense platforms. "Look at their ship," Tira continued, pointing at the display. "No beauty, no elegance, just brutal, efficient power. While we decorated our ships with gold and crystal, they built weapons that could pierce our strongest shields." Military Advisor Kell activated another display, showing footage from previous battles. "Their tactics make no sense to our commanders. They break every rule of space combat we've established over millennia. And yet they keep winning," Tyra finished. High Leader Dax turned to face the others, his pride still unbroken. "The Citadel cannot fall. Our shields are powered by 3 artificial suns. Our walls are made of materials so strong they can survive a supernova. No human weapon can." The chamber shook suddenly, cutting off his words. Through the crystal walls, they watched as the terminus tore through their first line of defense ships like they were made of paper. "Impossible," several council members shouted at once. Military Advisor Kell's communicator buzzed with urgent messages. "Our outer fleet reports their shields are failing. The human ship, it's using some kind of new weapon we've never seen before." Another explosion rocked the Citadel. The council members watched in horror as their perfect defensive formation crumbled before their eyes. "Send the call," High Leader Dax ordered. "Summon every ship we have. Every fleet must protect the Citadel." But Military Advisor Kell shook his head slowly. "Our long-range communications are being blocked. Some kind of human technology. We can't reach our other fleets." The council members stared at each other in growing panic. For the first time in 10,000 years, real fear crept into their hearts. Through the crystal walls, they watched the terminus advance. Its black hull absorbed the light from their artificial suns, making it look like a piece of moving darkness. Weapons fire from their defense fleet bounced harmlessly off its shields. "How?" High Leader Dax whispered. "How did we let this happen?" Tyra looked at the approaching human ship, a bitter smile on her face. "We thought our power would last forever. We thought our technology could never be matched. We were wrong." The chamber shook again, harder this time. Crystal chandeliers swayed dangerously overhead. The Council's mighty Citadel, their symbol of eternal power, was about to face its greatest test. And through it all, the human battleship kept coming, unstoppable as time itself. Deep within the terminus, Chief Engineer Anna Miller worked in the heart of the massive battleship. The engine room hummed with power as she monitored the advanced systems that made their ship the most feared vessel in human history. "Atlas," she called out to the ship's AI, "show me the power readings from the main reactor." Holographic displays lit up around her, showing streams of data. The ship's artificial intelligence responded in its calm, clear voice. Main reactor operating at 98% efficiency. All systems nominal. Anna smiled as she watched the numbers. The Council might have ruled space for thousands of years, but they had never seen anything like the Terminus. 20 years of war had taught humanity more than the aliens could imagine. Chief Miller. Captain Walker's voice came through the communication system. Status report on the new weapon. Anna turned to the sealed chamber behind her. Inside, a massive cannon glowed with blue energy. It was her greatest creation. A weapon designed specifically to crack the Citadel's supposedly unbreakable walls. "The shield breaker is ready, Captain," she reported. "One shot from this, and their fancy walls won't know what hit them." The ship shook as enemy fire struck their shields. Anna barely noticed. She had gotten used to it over the years. The Terminus's shield system, unlike the rigid barriers used by the Council, was flexible and adaptive. It learned from each hit, getting stronger instead of weaker. "Atlas, show me the shield breaker's targeting system," Anna commanded. More displays appeared, showing complex calculations. The AI had been her partner in creating this weapon, working through millions of simulations to perfect its design. "The weapon uses principles the Council never considered," Atlas explained, displaying a diagram. "They believe energy must be focused into a single point. We discovered it's more effective to strike from multiple angles simultaneously." The engine room's doors opened as Lieutenant Jack Morris, the ship's head gunner, entered. "Chief Miller, the captain wants to know if we're ready for the main event." Anna nodded, leading him to the shield breaker's control station. "See this." She pointed to a particular display. "When we fire, the shot will split into 12 smaller projectiles. Each one vibrates at a different frequency. And that's what will get through their shields?" Jack asked, studying the controls. "Exactly," Anna replied. "The Council's shields are tuned to stop normal weapons, but these projectiles will create a resonance cascade. Their shields won't just fail, they'll collapse completely." Another blast rocked the ship. Atlas immediately reported minor damage to outer hull plating. "Self-repair systems engage." That was another thing the Council didn't have, ships that could heal themselves. The Terminus's hull was lined with millions of tiny robots, constantly fixing damage and improving the armor structure. Anna moved to the main engineering console, her fingers flying over the controls. "Atlas, begin power transfer sequence. Channel reactor output to the shield breaker." The ship's lights dimmed slightly as energy flowed into the massive weapon. Through the reinforced windows, Anna could see the blue glow getting brighter. "Captain," she called over the comm system, "we'll be ready to fire in 10 minutes. But there's something you should know. We'll only get one shot. The power discharge will burn out most of the weapon systems." "Understood, Chief," Walker replied. "Make it count." Anna turned to her engineering crew, all of them working at their stations with practiced efficiency. 20 years ago, the Council thought we were primitives," she said. "They thought their technology was perfect, unchangeable." She walked to the shield breaker's main viewport, watching the energy build up inside. "But that's why we're going to win. They stopped improving centuries ago. They thought they knew everything. We never stopped learning, never stopped pushing forward." The weapon's charging sequence reached 90%. Through the ship's windows, they could see the Citadel growing larger. Its crystal walls sparkled with energy as its defenders prepared for the coming attack. "Atlas," Anna commanded, "begin final targeting sequence. Show them what human ingenuity can do." The AI's voice echoed through the engine room. "Targeting sequence initiated. Shield breaker at 95% charge." The Council's final day approaches. Around her, the Terminus's systems pulsed with power, ready to deliver humanity's decisive blow against their arrogant oppressors. The space around the Citadel erupted into chaos as the Terminus engaged the Council's defense fleet. Hundreds of enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their golden hulls gleaming in the light of the artificial suns. They looked beautiful, deadly, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Captain Walker stood at the bridge's center, his voice steady as he gave orders. Helm, attack pattern Delta. Weapons, target their command ships first. The Terminus moved like a dancer despite its massive size. The Council ships fired their weapons, filling space with green energy beams. But the human battleship twisted and turned, avoiding most of the shots while its shields absorbed the rest. "Sir," Lieutenant Cooper called from her station. "Enemy ships trying to surround us." Walker smiled slightly. "Just as we expected. Atlas, show them why that's a bad idea." The ship's AI activated the Terminus Point Defense System. Hundreds of small turrets emerged from the hull, each one tracking multiple targets. When they fired, they filled space with a web of blue laser fire. "Impossible." The Council Fleet Commander's voice came through their communication system. "No ship that size should move like that." The Terminus spun on its axis, its main guns roaring to life. Each shot found its target, tearing through the Council ship's elegant but rigid shields. 3 enemy vessels exploded in quick succession, their golden hulls turning into clouds of glowing debris. "Status report," Walker commanded as the ship shook from a direct hit. "Shields holding at 89%, reported First Officer Thompson. "Their weapons are strong, but our adaptive shields are getting stronger with each hit." Through the viewport, they watched as the Council fleet tried to adjust their formation. Their ships moved in textbook patterns, following battle plans that were thousands of years old. But the Terminus didn't play by their rules. "They're clustering their heavy cruisers," observed Thompson. "Standard Council doctrine says that's unbeatable." Walker nodded. Standard doctrine didn't account for humans. "Execute maneuver Braveheart." The Terminus suddenly accelerated straight toward the enemy formation. The Council ships held their position, confident in their combined shield strength. It was exactly what Walker had wanted them to do. "Now," he ordered. The battleship's secondary weapons opened fire, not at the enemy ships, but at the space between them. The careful geometry of their formation began to break apart as ships tried to avoid the unexpected attack pattern. "Their formation is cracking," Atlas reported. "Shield effectiveness reduced by 60% due to misalignment." The Terminus roared through the gap in their lines, its weapons blazing in every direction. Council ships scattered like startled birds, their perfect formation shattered beyond repair. "Sir," Cooper's voice was excited. "The Council's command ship is exposed." Walker leaned forward in his chair. "Main guns, target their flagship. Show them what human weapons can do." The Terminus's main guns spoke as one. The Council flagship's shields flared brilliant green for a moment before failing completely. The massive golden ship split in two, its reactor going critical moments later. "Enemy fleet is in disarray," Atlas reported. "They're falling back to secondary positions." But Walker knew they couldn't celebrate yet. Through the chaos of battle, he could see the Citadel ahead, its crystal walls still untouched. The real fight hadn't even begun. "Captain," Chief Miller's voice came through the comm. "Shield breaker is almost ready. We need 5 more minutes." "Understood," Walker replied. He turned to his crew. "You heard her. Let's give engineering the time they need. All weapons covering fire. Show these aliens why humanity never surrenders." The Terminus moved forward relentlessly, its black hull marked with burning impacts but unbreakable. Around it, the remains of the Council's perfect defense fleet drifted in space, a testament to the folly of underestimating humanity. "Sir," Thompson reported with a grim smile, "the Council is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding our surrender." Walker looked at the Citadel ahead, its crystal walls about to face humanity's greatest weapon. "Send them our response. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity wins." The battle continued, but everyone on the bridge knew that history was about to change forever. The Council's reign was ending, one explosion at a time. The Terminus pushed forward through a storm of enemy fire, its hull glowing red from countless impacts. Inside the mighty ship, Warning alarms blared as systems reported damage across multiple decks. Direct hit on Deck 7. Thompson shouted over the noise. Hull breach in sections 12 through 15. Captain Walker gripped his command chair as the ship shook violently. Atlas, seal those sections. Redirect power to forward shields. The ship's AI responded instantly. Hull breach contained. Self-repair systems engage. Warning. Shield strength dropping to 45%. Through the bridge viewport, Walker could see the Citadel growing larger. Its crystal walls sparkled with energy as the Council activated their final defenses. Hundreds of defense turrets emerged from hidden ports, all targeting the approaching human battleship. Engineering. Status report. Walker called through the comm system. Chief Miller's voice came back, strained but determined. Shield breaker is charged, Captain. But our power systems are taking heavy damage. We need to get closer. Another massive hit rocked the ship. Emergency lights flashed red across the bridge as more damage reports flooded in. Hull integrity at 60%. Lieutenant Cooper reported, "We're losing weapon systems on the port side." Walker stood from his chair, watching as the Citadel's defenses unleashed everything they had. The space between them, filled with so much weapons fire that it looked like a solid wall of light. Atlas, show me a path through their fire pattern, Walker commanded. The AI displayed a holographic map, calculating trajectories in real time. There is a possible route, Captain, but it will expose our weakened port side. We'll only get one chance at this, Walker said. Then he opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, brace for extreme maneuvers. Engineering, prepare for maximum power output. The terminus suddenly rolled to starboard, presenting its stronger shields to the heaviest fire. The massive ship's engines flared bright blue as they pushed to full power. In engineering, Chief Miller and her team worked frantically to keep their systems online. Rerouting power from non-essential systems, she shouted. Atlas, divert all available energy to engines and the shield breaker. The lights throughout the ship dimmed as power was redirected. The terminus's mighty engines roared louder, pushing the battleship faster toward its target. Enemy missiles incoming, Thompson warned. Too many for point defense to handle. Walker's voice remained steady. All hands, brace for impact. The missiles struck in waves, explosions rippling across the terminus's hull. Armor plating tore away, exposing internal structures to space. But still the mighty ship pressed forward. Engineering to bridge. Miller's voice was urgent. The shield breaker's containment system is failing. We need to fire now, or we'll lose it. Walker looked at the distance remaining to their target. They weren't close enough yet, but they were running out of options. Atlas, he called out, calculate firing solution for maximum effect at current range. The AI worked quickly. Solution calculated, but effectiveness will be reduced by 30% at this distance. Another hit rocked the ship. Port shields failing, Cooper reported. We can't take much more of this. Walker made his decision. Engineering, prepare to fire. Atlas, execute evasive pattern Omega. All remaining weapons, give us covering fire. The terminus's remaining guns roared to life, forcing some of the Council's defenses to focus on incoming fire rather than the ship itself. The massive battleship twisted through space, its movements becoming more desperate as systems failed. Shield breaker ready, Miller reported. But our power core is reaching critical levels. Walker took one last look at the Citadel ahead, its crystal walls seeming to mock their efforts. Atlas, time to show them what humanity can really do. Fire the shield breaker. The ship's lights flickered and died as all power flowed to their ultimate weapon. In engineering, Chief Miller watched as energy readings went off the scale. Shield breaker firing, she shouted. Everyone hold on. The massive weapon discharge, its energy pulse lighting up space like a newborn star. As the light faded, everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting to see if their desperate gamble had paid off. Through the viewport, They watched as their shot streaked toward the Citadel's supposedly impenetrable walls. The shield breaker's shot split into 12 glowing projectiles as it approached the Citadel. Each piece spiraled through space, leaving trails of blue energy behind them. Inside the council chamber, alarms screamed as their sensors detected the incoming attack. "Impossible," High Leader Dax shouted. "Increase shield power. Divert energy from the artificial suns." But it was too late. The human weapon struck the Citadel's shields from 12 different angles at once. The supposedly unbreakable barrier flickered, turned from green to red, and then shattered like glass. On the terminus bridge, Captain Walker watched through the damaged viewport. "Direct hit. Atlas, scan their defenses. Citadel shields have failed completely," the AI reported. "Their defense grid is offline, detecting massive power fluctuations throughout their structure." The crystal walls of the Citadel began to crack. Light poured from the fractures as the building's power systems went haywire. Inside, the council members watched in horror as their perfect world fell apart. "All remaining weapons, open fire," Walker commanded. "Target their main support structures." The terminus's guns roared one last time. Though damaged and barely functioning, the human battleship poured everything it had left into the attack. Each shot found its mark, striking the Citadel where it was weakest. Inside the council chamber, Military Advisor Kell rushed to the leaders. "We must evacuate. The power core is going critical." "No." High Leader Dax refused to move from his throne. "This cannot be happening. We are the Council. We have ruled for 10,000 years. The chamber shook violently as another explosion rocked the Citadel. Crystal chandeliers crashed to the floor, and the perfect walls began to buckle. "Sir," Lieutenant Cooper called from her station on the terminus, detecting massive energy spike from their core. Walker nodded grimly. "Just as we expected. Their power systems are too rigid. They can't handle the feedback from their failed shields." The Citadel's beautiful crystal walls started to collapse section by section. The Council's mighty fortress, which had stood for thousands of years, was dying before their eyes. On the Council chamber's display screens, they watched as their remaining ships tried to flee. The mighty Council fleet, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was running away. "This is humanity's revenge," Walker's voice boomed through every speaker in the Citadel. "For every colony you destroyed, for every human life you took, for every time you called us primitive. Look upon your works now, mighty Council, and despair." Military Advisor Kell grabbed High Leader Dax's arm. "Sir, we must surrender. We must stop this." Finally, the Council leader's pride broke. He stumbled to the communication panel and pressed the emergency broadcast button. His voice shook as he spoke. "This is High Leader Dax of the Council. We surrender, unconditionally." On the terminus bridge, the crew cheered. But Walker wasn't finished yet. "Atlas, send our response." The AI's calm voice echoed through the Citadel. "Surrender accepted. All Council members will be taken into custody. Your reign ends today." The Citadel's destruction continued, but now in a more controlled fashion. Entire sections of the mighty structure crumbled, its once perfect crystal walls turning to dust. The symbol of the Council's power, which had stood for millennia, was being reduced to rubble by a single human ship. "Engineering, status report," Walker called. Chief Miller's tired voice came back. "We're running on backup power, Captain. The shield breaker is completely burnt out. But we did it. We actually did it." Walker looked at his exhausted crew, pride filling his heart. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the Citadel has fallen. Tell them humanity has won." Through the viewport, they watched as escape pods launched from the dying Citadel. The Council members, once so proud and mighty, were fleeing like common criminals. "Should we stop them, sir?" Thompson asked, pointing at the escape pods. Walker shook his head. "Let them run. Let them tell everyone how humanity brought down their mighty Citadel. Let the galaxy know that the age of the Council is over." As the last crystal towers collapsed, the artificial suns flickered and died. In the darkness of space, the terminus floated victorious, its battle-scarred hull a testament to humanity's determination. The Council's citadel, their crown jewel, their ultimate symbol of power, was no more. And with its fall, a new age would begin. 1 week after the fall of the Citadel, Captain Walker stood in Earth's Grand Assembly Hall. The massive room was filled with representatives from every human colony, and for the first time, delegates from former Council worlds. Where once the Council had demanded humanity's submission, now Earth led the discussion of peace. The terminus hung in orbit above, its battle-scarred hull visible from the hall's giant windows. Workers in spacesuits crawled across its surface, repairing the damage from its final battle. The mighty ship had become a symbol of hope for oppressed species across the galaxy. The terms of surrender are simple, Admiral Stone announced to the gathered representatives. The Council's leadership will face trial for their crimes. Their empire will be dissolved. All enslaved worlds will be freed. Walker watched as the former Council members, now in simple gray uniforms, signed the surrender documents. High Leader Dax's hands shook as he wrote his name, his pride finally broken completely. "What of our worlds?" asked a delegate from one of the Council's former subject races. "Who will protect us now?" Admiral Stone gestured to Captain Walker. "The captain of the terminus has a proposal." Walker stepped forward, his voice clear and strong. 20 years ago, we learned we weren't alone in the galaxy. The Council tried to enslave us, thinking we were weak. Instead, we showed them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or technology. It's our ability to adapt and grow. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the assembly. It showed plans for a new organization, one built on cooperation rather than conquest. "We propose the formation of the Galactic Alliance," Walker continued. "Not an empire ruled by force, but a partnership of equals. Each world will govern itself, but together we can face any threat that comes from the stars." Chief Engineer Miller, standing near the back of the hall, smiled as she watched the delegates' reactions. The former Council races looked skeptical at first, but their expressions changed as Walker explained the details. "Humanity will share its technology," he said. "Our shield innovations, our adaptive systems, our AI development, all of it. In return, we ask for your knowledge, your experience, your unique perspectives. Together, we can build something greater than the Council ever imagined." The hall erupted in discussion. Former enemies began talking about cooperation, about sharing resources and knowledge. Where the Council had forced obedience, humanity offered partnership. Atlas's voice came through the hall's speakers, calm and reassuring. "Analysis shows a 97% chance of success for the proposed alliance, based on current diplomatic indicators." Walker nodded. The ship's AI had become more than just a machine. It was proof that different forms of intelligence could work together as equals. Near the hall's entrance, Lieutenant Cooper was showing some alien delegates the plans for new defensive systems. "See, by combining your crystal technology with our adaptive shields, we can create defenses that are both stronger and more flexible." The aliens looked amazed. The Council had always hoarded knowledge, keeping their subject races dependent. Humanity's openness was something entirely new. Admiral Stone raised his hand for silence. "The war is over. The Council's reign has ended. But this isn't just humanity's victory. It belongs to everyone who dreamed of freedom among the stars." He turned to where the terminus could be seen through the windows. "That ship proved that the impossible was possible. Now it's time to prove something even greater, that different species can work together in peace." One by one, the delegates stood to signal their agreement. Former Council worlds, independent systems, even races that had hidden from the Council's power, all of them choosing to join humanity's new vision. Walker looked at his crew members scattered throughout the hall. They had started as warriors, forced to fight for humanity's survival. Now they would become teachers, sharing what they had learned during those 20 years of war. The council thought they had perfected civilization. Walker said to the assembly, "They stopped growing, stopped changing, stopped dreaming. That was their real weakness. As long as we keep pushing forward, keep learning, keep working together, nothing in this galaxy can stop us." Outside, the sun set on humanity's first day as leaders of a new galactic civilization. The terminus caught the last rays of light on its hull, its scars a reminder of the cost of victory, but also a promise of a better tomorrow. The age of the council was over. The age of cooperation had begun.